Mom, Dad, listen to me. I'm paralyzed now. I don't want to burden my wife with taking care of me, so I'm thinking about getting a divorce. I'm really sorry. When my in-laws and I visited him, my husband, Nicholas, confessed with a look as if it was the end of the world. He had been in a car accident during a business trip. Hearing Nicholas' heartbreaking words, my in-laws collapsed to their knees, lamenting their son's misfortune, but they quickly got back up. Don't worry, Nicholas. We're here for you. Kelly will support you too. My in-laws turned to me. Their eyes sent a message: let's help each other from now on. Immediately after, my unexpected response left my in-laws speechless. No, I'm single now, remember? Nicholas said he doesn't want his wife taking care of him, but I never planned on doing that anyway. Not even a bit. I spoke these detached words without any expression, and the next moment, a sharp slap on my left cheek accompanied the sound of a loud smack. Don't joke at a time like this, Kelly. Your husband will never walk again, and you can say such a cold thing without batting an eye. Calm down, Mom. Violence is not the answer. Even in a private room, the next room can hear us. But I feel the same as you. Kelly, you sound like this isn't your problem. In times like this, family should support each other, right? Support each other as a family. How wonderful that would have been if possible. My husband and in-laws know nothing. On the other hand, I know everything. Though my face remained expressionless, my heart was filled with anger. My in-laws were waiting for my next words, glaring at me. I didn't expect to be slapped by my mother-in-law, but given that they knew nothing about our situation, their reaction was understandable. However, my decision to reveal the truth was firm. I took a deep breath and began to explain what had happened. Well, let me explain in order. Could you look at this first? I took out a prepared piece of paper and showed it to my in-laws. My mother-in-law took the paper, a puzzled expression on her face. This is a medical report? As she said, it was a medical report from when I had visited the hospital earlier. When my in-laws read its contents, they looked shocked. You injured your head? How did that happen? What on earth happened? And it's recent too. This is from when Nicholas hit me, causing my head to strike a desk, and I needed surgery. The moment I said that, both my in-laws widened their eyes in astonishment. What? He hit you? What could have happened for Nicholas to raise a hand against you? Meanwhile, my husband was visibly unsettled by my sudden revelation. His eyes darting nervously. Wait, Kelly, what are you talking about? My husband spoke to me with a flustered expression, acting as if he knew nothing. But I ignored him. And I started telling my in-laws about the mistreatment I had endured from him. What I'm about to tell you might be hard to believe, Dad and Mom, because Nicholas has always pretended to be a good husband in front of you. I'm not pretending. Why are you saying such things, Kelly? Nicholas always seemed like a good husband, but he was different with you, Kelly? That's right. When we first got married, he helped with the housework and was very kind. But about a year after we got married, he started ignoring me and yelling at me. This mistreatment has been going on ever since. I explained calmly without changing my expression. But my husband denied the mistreatment, feigning ignorance. What are you talking about? When have I ever mistreated you? I can't believe Nicholas would mistreat you. Surely not Nicholas. My in-laws were confused and couldn't believe what I was saying. It was understandable, considering how perfect my husband's act as a good husband was. Moreover, I had heard that he was always honest and kind, even as a child, without a rebellious phase. I didn't expect my in-laws to believe me just based on my words. So, I made my next move. Taking a small device from my bag, I asked my in-laws a question. Dad, Mom, do you know what this is? Is it some kind of small device? I've never seen it before. What is it? Not recognizing the device, they asked me in return. I then asked my husband. How about you? Do you know what this is? This can't be. My husband seemed to realize what it was. So, I revealed the device's identity. As Nicholas might have guessed, this is a surveillance camera. Amazing, right? Nowadays, even amateurs can easily get these small, high-quality cameras. The moment I revealed that it was a surveillance camera, my husband's face turned pale with anxiety. I didn't miss that. He must have thought I was a helpless woman who couldn't do anything. But I had anticipated this reaction. I stared at my husband, and he looked back at me. His eyes, which once looked down on me, now showed fear. Ignoring my husband, I took out a tablet and played a video. Well, let's take a look, shall we? Wait, what are you doing? My husband's face turned visibly pale. He must have realized what I had recorded. Yes, the footage showed all the mistreatment my husband had inflicted on me. And the part one just played showed the decisive moment when he hit me. Don't you dare laugh without my permission. If you laugh in front of me again, it won't end like this. Yes. With a sharp sound, my husband's angry voice echoed. In the video, I collapsed from the pain and fear of being slapped. As I fell, my head hit the corner of the desk, and blood started coming from my head. But my husband didn't care at all and slammed the door loudly as he left the room. My in-laws' faces turned pale as they watched the shocking video. It was no wonder they believed their son was a good husband, yet the scene before them was beyond belief. The sheer horror of it must have deeply impacted their hearts. This can't be true. Nicholas, what have you done? Nicholas didn't help me even when I was injured. So, I gave myself first aid and went alone to an emergency hospital. My in-laws looked at my husband in disbelief. He avoided their gaze, looking awkward and silent. Since the mistreatment began, Nicholas had gotten angry whenever I showed any emotion, whether I laughed or cried. On this particular day, he saw me laughing at a friend's message and raised his hand against me. I had lost count of how many times he had said, "Don't laugh without my permission." Nicholas gets upset and hits me or throws things if I laugh even a little. I have more recordings of his mistreatment. If you can't believe just this one, I can show you more. No, I believe you. This is clearly Nicholas. They found it hard to believe that their proud son had been doing such vile things to his wife. Both remained silent, their faces still pale. I continued to explain the facts calmly, without changing my expression. You can't deny it, can you? This video captures it perfectly. Without it, you'd probably deny everything. I set up the surveillance camera to prevent that. This video and the medical report are enough evidence of your mistreatment. Recording without my permission. What's your goal with this? Isn't it obvious? I wanted Dad and Mom to see your true nature that you've been hiding. Finally, my husband began to show his true colors even in front of his parents, but this was just the beginning. There's another video I'd like you to see. Shall we watch this one next? What? What's next? I played another video. It showed my husband working on something in his study. This can't be. He must have realized what he was doing in the video. It showed him signing divorce papers. After signing, he put them on a shelf beside the desk. As you can see, Nicholas prepared the divorce papers himself. And you can probably guess what I did with them. Yes, while he was away on a business trip, I secretly took the divorce papers and submitted them to the office. The divorce papers have been officially accepted. So, I'm already single. I told my in-laws the truth again. At this point, they seemed to realize that my constant expressionlessness was due to Nicholas's mistreatment. My mother-in-law placed her hand on my back and said, "I can't believe this. So that's why you always looked so expressionless, Kelly. I'm sorry we didn't notice." My in-laws are very kind people. Now that they knew the truth, tears welled up in their eyes. Then, they turned to Nicholas and raised their voices to demand an explanation. It seemed they completely believed my story. "Nicholas, what have you been doing to Kelly all this time? We didn't raise you to be like this." You're a grown man. Explain yourself. Realizing he couldn't deny it any longer, Nicholas began to speak in a low voice about what had been happening at his company. The truth is, I've been harassed by my boss and colleagues at work. It's been so tough going to work every day, but I couldn't quit. I had no one to talk to. Harassment? My mother-in-law's angry face softened a bit. As a mother, she must be worried about her son. Nicholas continued to speak. This business trip was supposed to be done by a colleague, but it was pushed onto me. They blame me for mistakes I didn't make and take credit for my successes. They all laugh at me, and I can't get their laughter out of my head. So, that's why you told Kelly not to laugh? My mother-in-law looked pained as she listened to Nicholas. Her face, which had been filled with anger earlier, now showed concern. Tears streamed down Nicholas's face as he continued. I had no escape, so I took out my frustration on Kelly when I got home. I've been terrible to her. I'm really sorry. I wasn't myself. I'm so sorry. Nicholas lowered his head deeply on the bed, showing his regret. For a moment, I worried that my in-laws might be swayed by sympathy for him. But my worry was unnecessary. I understand what you're saying. But the fact remains you mistreated Kelly, right? How pathetic. A grown man taking out his stress on his wife. Apologized to Kelly sincerely. Now that they had heard from Nicholas himself, my in-laws' anger only grew. Nicholas probably tried to shift the blame to gain their sympathy. But he hadn't expected it to backfire. No matter the reason, mistreating his wife was unacceptable. Though they didn't say it, I knew my in-laws felt that way too. Nicholas, who hadn't expected to be scolded so harshly, hurriedly apologized to them. Dad, Mom, I'm sorry for disappointing you. Kelly, I'm really sorry. I'll pay the alimony, I promise. Of course, you'll pay alimony. Kelly, I'm so sorry our fool of a son did this to you. I'm really sorry. We'll make sure he takes responsibility. My in-laws began to apologize with him. I was relieved that my in-laws were reasonable people. It would have been unbearable if they had sided with Nicholas in this situation. But Nicholas's apology was nowhere near enough. I informed my in-laws about the next step in my revenge. Please, raise your heads. You don't need to apologize. But don't be fooled. This isn't all that Nicholas has done. Not all? What else could he have done? My in-laws showed confused expressions again. My mother-in-law seemed both angry and exasperated with her son. With the tense atmosphere surrounding us, I abruptly left the hospital room. Now, the real show begins. 5 minutes later, Nicholas was shocked. I returned to the room with another woman. He could never have imagined I would bring this woman here. Let me introduce you. This is Nicholas's mistress, Rachel. What? Not only did he mistreat you, but he was also cheating? Nicholas, what is this about? You're unbelievable. How much more are you going to disappoint us? My in-laws couldn't hide their shock and started questioning Nicholas. He panicked and denied the affair. What are you talking about? I don't know this woman. Kelly, you must be mistaken. Did you really think I didn't know anything? You're so naive. I asked him coldly, with a harsh gaze, and he trembled, looking down. I expected him to deny the affair immediately. So, without hesitation, I played another video on my tablet. No, don't do it. The video showed Nicholas and Rachel in his car, having an affair. The camera in his car had recorded it. Faced with such decisive evidence, Nicholas tried to stop the video. But I wasn't foolish enough to let a man who couldn't move his lower body take the tablet from me. I set up cameras not just in the house but also in your car. You've gone too far. Well, you wouldn't stop unless I did this much, right? And this isn't the only video. You've used the car many times, haven't you? Thanks for providing me with so much solid evidence. While monitoring him at home, I had noticed signs of his affair. I suspected his mistreatment stemmed from his infidelity and installed a camera in his car. As a result, I caught his affair on video, confirmed it, and began gathering more evidence. Now, I had more than enough proof. With Nicholas rendered speechless, I pressed on, revealing more facts to my in-laws. The reason Rachel could come here so quickly is that she's hospitalized in the room next door. Nicholas saying he had an accident on a business trip was a complete lie. The truth is, it happened during their affair trip. Rachel was also injured in the accident and is now hospitalized. Fortunately, she only suffered minor injuries. Nicholas was paralyzed, but Rachel miraculously escaped with her limbs intact. Knowing he had been found out, Nicholas remained silent. An affair trip? So this whole situation is just karma. You're being punished for your actions. My in-laws' anger peaked. My mother-in-law's fists were trembling with rage. I then addressed Nicholas again. When we get divorced, I'll be claiming alimony not just for the mistreatment but also for the affair. Well, I don't need your agreement to claim alimony. Nicholas continued his silence, but the only thing left for him to do was to admit his guilt and apologize. If he didn't, things would only get worse. I looked at him with pity, but then he did something unthinkable. He broke his silence and began to insult me. Fine. If you want a divorce that badly, I'll give it to you. I only married you to have a housekeeper anyway. Hearing that now doesn't affect me at all. Besides, the divorce papers have been filed, so I'm already done with you. Oh, really? That's perfect. I was planning to dump you once I met Rachel. I'll pay the alimony, so get lost. All right, then I'm leaving. Don't forget the alimony. With no need to pretend to be a good husband anymore, Nicholas hurled insults at me. Even as he belittled me, my expression didn't change. I left the hospital room without any expression. But inside, I felt relieved that it was finally over, and the fog of resentment toward Nicholas was starting to clear. I walked out with a light step, and a voice called out to me. Wait, Kelly! I didn't need to turn around to know it was my mother-in-law. Mom, you don't need to chase after me. I'm fine. No, it's not that. It's about Nicholas, but also about me. I slapped you earlier without knowing anything. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. She knelt and apologized. Mom, please stand up. There are other people around. You don't need to do that. But I'm truly grateful that you and Dad took my side against Nicholas. Thank you. Of course. It's shameful that he turned out to be such a horrible person. I'm so sorry, Kelly. She cried as she hugged me. I don't know where we went wrong raising him, but we'll make sure he pays the alimony and apologizes properly. I promise. I'll go back and give him a few slaps myself. Her anger hadn't subsided. My in-laws promised to make sure Nicholas apologized, but I reassured them. Thank you, but don't worry. You don't need to take any action. What do you mean? Do you have a plan to punish Nicholas? Yes, please look forward to it. Nicholas would face consequences without me having to do anything more. As I said, I knew everything. A few days later, I waited for a call in my new home. I had received multiple missed calls and emails from Nicholas, but I had my own schedule to consider. I had set a specific time for the call and was waiting to hear from him. At the agreed time, he called. He sounded extremely agitated and incoherent, making it hard to understand what he was saying. Calm down. What happened? Rachel ran off with the money. I've been calling her non-stop, but she's not answering, and I have no idea where she went. In this condition, I can't even go look for her. What am I supposed to do? I see. What's with that reaction? Do you know something? I told my frantic husband the truth. Actually, I knew this would happen. A few months ago, I had already contacted Rachel. She believed Nicholas was single, because he had told her so. When she found out he was married, she was shocked and immediately gave me money as compensation. From her reaction, it seemed she was telling the truth. And Rachel said something interesting. She said you were just a cash cow to her. That's not true, is it? Rachel had planned to use Nicholas and then discard him. Just as Nicholas had planned to do with me. Knowing her scheme, I had asked Rachel to pretend she didn't know anything until my revenge was complete. She agreed, and Nicholas believed they were genuinely involved. So, Rachel knew everything even during the incident at the hospital. What? Are you kidding me? You were deceiving me this whole time? Is that what a wife should do? What are you talking about? You tried to discard me first, didn't you? It's karma. If you treat people like disposable items, you can't complain when you're treated the same way. This time, Nicholas had nothing to say. He couldn't argue back. How long would he continue to think that his wife should be beneath him? How blind could he be to his surroundings? How many people did he need to hurt to be satisfied? If Nicholas didn't change his mindset, his life would be over. But it no longer concerned me. I only wanted him to fall into misery. That's enough, right? I'm hanging up now. As I moved the phone away from my ear, I heard Nicholas's desperate voice. Wait. What is it? Do you have something else to say? I realize now that I need you. Please, let's start over. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could he possibly think that? How could he come to such a conclusion after all this? Are you serious? How could you even think like that? And then I delivered the final blow, revealing his hidden secret. I know you've already been fired from your job. What are you talking about? Nicholas didn't want to admit it right away, but it was the truth. It was pointless to pretend otherwise. There was no going back. Feeling both exasperated and incredulous, I continued. The other day in the hospital, you said you were being harassed by your boss and colleagues. But that was all lies, wasn't it? You were the one pushing work and mistakes onto them. How do you know that? I called your office to check if you were really on a business trip. They told me you were a problem at work. As a result, Nicholas had been fired. A man who lies and deceives to the very end. You're trying to get back with me just for the money. You can't work properly in that condition, so you want me to support you financially. I see right through you. No. I truly realized how important you are to me. Nicholas tried to continue lying, but I completely denied his twisted logic. You used me like a tool and discarded me when I was no longer useful. You lied to and deceived me and your parents. I will never forgive you. It finally seemed to dawn on him that I deeply despised him. At last, he expressed regret and apologized. I'm sorry. I've been taking advantage of you all this time, thinking you would forgive me in the end. Though we couldn't see each other's expressions over the phone, his tone conveyed that he was genuinely apologizing. You finally apologized. But I will never forgive you. You'll live alone and miserable. I said this and hung up the phone. How twisted he was, unable to understand others' pain without experiencing his own. I, too, had been twisted. Marrying him without seeing his true nature and being too scared to stand up for myself. Even though I had supportive in-laws nearby, I never relied on them. I had my regrets and reflections, but now it was all over. Feeling relieved, I let out a deep sigh. Later, I heard that Nicholas had turned to his parents for help. However, knowing the full story, they were even more furious with him than before. His parents abandoned him, leaving him utterly alone. Meanwhile, Rachel found another cash cow and continued her deceit. People don't change easily, it seems. However, her choice of target backfired, and she ended up cornered herself. I hoped this experience would at least lead her to change. Later, my in-laws visited me to apologize again. Kelly, we're truly sorry for everything. We know an apology isn't enough, but we mean it sincerely. They conveyed their apologies even more earnestly than Nicholas had. But I held no grudge against them. As I said before, you don't need to apologize. I'm truly grateful to both of you. Kelly will always be on your side. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. They smiled kindly. And seeing their smiles warmed my heart. Oh, Kelly, it's been a while since we've seen you smile. For so long, I had suppressed my emotions, but now I found myself smiling without even realizing it. My future looked bright. I felt this anew and cherished my current happiness.